Okay. So, hello. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Simon Rabyniuk. I'm a graduate architecture student here in my thesis semester. And just before we begin, I'd like to just acknowledge the land and sky which the University of Toronto operates in. For thousands of years, this has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So I'm going to, first off, just say that if you would like to come and sit at this big table, you're welcome to sit at this big table. Big tables often have the problem of not being big enough, but I think we can probably fill it if you would like. So this colloquium emerges from research that I've been conducting supported by the Howarth-Wright Fellowship. In 2000, the fellowship fund was created at the Daniels faculty to commemorate the life and contribution of architectural historian, former dean, and professor emeritus Thomas Howarth. The Howarth-Wright Fellowship enables a graduate architecture student to travel in support of an independent research project situated in relationship to Frank Lloyd Wright's work. And of course, this is quite a strange premise in the present moment. But I think one that has produced pretty rich pursuits. Last year's recipient is named Lauren Marshall, and she produced an exhibition called Workspace in Progress, which investigated a constellation of gendered relationships situated around the design of Wright's kitchens. This year, I've shared the fellowship with Samantha Eby, and I would encourage you to anticipate the forthcoming exhibition, which she'll be staging, which explores system building and affordability within Wright's Usonian homes. My own project, entitled Dronesphere, is a trans-historical study of flight in the city that puts Wright's Aerofuturist writing and drawing in conversation with present-day efforts to integrate drones into the city. Architectural historian Mark Wigley places Wright amongst a class of modernist architects concerned with total design. In describing this, Wigley situates total design as either an implosion or an explosion. Total design as an implosion produces hyper-interiors. Here you could think of the inside of one of Wright's homes. And if you've ever toured one of his homes, probably you've seen one of his piano nooks and have heard some kind of anecdote about how he needed to train his clients to live in one of his houses. Wigley describes Wright as an implosion designer, but here I might disagree. Considering Wright's late futurism, which can be seen epitomized in the project Living City from the 1950s, his attention turns to the antennas of mass communication, highway interchanges, barge-based river transportation networks, and different classes of helicopter taxis, all towards the purpose of facilitating a dispersed urbanism. The antenna, the interchange, the barge, and helicopter taxis, as systems for negotiating the space in between, are seemingly beyond a conservative interpretation of the scope of an architect. However, here are employed by Wright within an active world building. In this sense, total design as an explosive force produces the entire world as a hyper-interior. Systems here should be understood as a means of organizing relationships between things, and through that, producing an ordering of the world which creates conditions of control. Turning to the present, the systems which will allow for drone flight within the city, which we can call urban air mobility, are being prototyped today. My focus has primarily been on the context of the United States, with an interest in two pilot projects, the first dating back to 2014, and the other launched just this past May. In total, 17 different cities are participating in these pilots and either are testing drone traffic management, which basically is exploring how multiple flying vehicles can occupy close proximity, and others are exploring kind of different use cases, and these are really diverse, ranging from a kind of militaristic policing of the border to pizza delivery. So kind of like from the terrifying to the banal. So I guess turning to today, turning to the colloquium, It features an interdisciplinary set of presenters who are here with us in Toronto and who will also address us from LA, Dublin, and Prescott, Arizona. They are artists, architects, historians, engineers, humanities scholars who will share their work, some of which is still at the level of proposals and prototypes. And for me, this makes it quite an exciting day. We will be addressing the history of airspace as presented by architectural historian John Harwood, and we'll conclude with other futures as prototyped by the speculative architect Liam Young. In between these histories and futures are a series of 3 panels which situate domestic use of drones in relationship to the history of airspace, highlight projective uses for drones formulated in the work of practicing architects, landscape architects, and creative technologists. We will also explore counter-narratives pertaining to military drones present in film and performance art practices, and struggle with the interdisciplinarity arising from drones as technical objects with vast social and spatial implications. These panels have been organized to create contrast between scales, contrast between sites, and contrast between disciplinary forms of knowledge. Separate from any insights you may gain about aerial robotics today, my interest is that we might see air and the space that it expands into in a different way, recognizing its different cultural valences. Before introducing John Harwood, I would like to thank the Daniels faculty who are supporting today through the Howarth-Wright Fellowship, which is a wonderful opportunity for graduate students. And if you are a graduate student and have the opportunity to apply for it, I would encourage you to do so. I'm also just grateful to the faculty for the support of different staff that has been made available to this event, and then also for the use of this venue. I would also like to thank Mason White, who is this event's faculty advisor and also my thesis advisor. And the origins of Dronesphere are in the Velocities Research Studio, which he organized last spring. This event also has 3 partners. First, I would like to thank Fado Performance Arts Center, who are co-presenting Liam Young's performance lecture, which will be later today at 4:30. I would also like to acknowledge the support of the Italian Cultural Institute of Toronto, who are co-presenting the Projective Urban Air Mobility panel, which will follow John's opening paper. And then I would also like to thank the Graduate Architecture, Landscape, and Design Student Union, who is also supporting today through their Student Initiative Fund. And if you are a kind of current student, I would encourage you to think about how you could work with GALDSU to get some support for one of your own initiatives.